We're going to welcome Adella Toulon from Cogent Law Firm in Washington, D.C. Adella is from Dominica. Warm applause, please.
Buenas tardes a todos. Hi, my name is Adella Toulon-Foerster, and guess what? I'm going to keep this short and as sweet as I possibly can and interactive as possible, because I think that just makes more sense, you know? So just a little bit about my background, and I apologize if you have heard this before, but back in 2001, I co-founded a company and we built the world's second instant settlement and clearance protocol. I was fortunate enough to bounce up with a bunch of crazy libertarians and anarchists and voluntarists, basically, and a bunch of like cryptographers and people who wanted to change the status quo of how everything was done. And to me, that had immense value proposition. I didn't really understand it. I had had a web building background, but I knew that I wanted to be a part of the disruption of legacy financial systems. So that is my start in this space. In 2004, we sold a company. And what happened was that a lot of people that I had worked with, our investor, started going to jail. Right? Jail is bad. And so I thought to myself, oh my God, I want to build stuff. I want to do this amazing work, but I'm too cute for jail. I don't want to go to jail. So, I better go to law school because I really need to understand the regulations behind the stuff I want to do. So I did go to law school, and in about 2010 or so, an old colleague said, hey, check out this amazing paper. It's wonderful. It's going to change everything as we know it. And it really took me a while to wrap my head around the white paper because it's not really easy bedtime reading. You know, I asked as many questions as I possibly could, and I finally did wrap my head around it in a way, and I thought, oh my God, this could change everything about how our children will hold, store, transmit, move, hodl, value protocols, or asset classes, right? Or money. And so I subsequently wrote my legal thesis on this wonderful thing that I had discovered, and I started to look at the Bank Secrecy Act and how it would play into the incredible protocol. So that's been my journey. Right now, I am a partner at a law firm in DC, although I'd vowed never to work for law firms. And I run the fintech department and the anything to do with cryptocurrencies, blockchain companies. What we try to do is to approach, and this is my way of kind of trying to disrupt the traditional legal system and sort of decodify, demystify that area. We try to provide a very in-depth forensic analysis and approach to whatever the particular issue is. So a soup to nuts type thing, to ensure that whatever goes in at the back end matches really what comes out at the front end. We've had instances where people came to us and didn't know that they were custodian of funds, for example. So those are issues that can come into play. So by show of hands, can I see everybody who has Bitcoin? Raise your hand. Oh my goodness, this is what I love about Panama. It's amazing. Everyone who owns or has interest in a Bitcoin blockchain cryptocurrency company or works for one. Oh my God, you can go ahead and give yourselves a round of applause. That's the most I've ever seen anywhere. That's great. So one of the things that I loved coming here was that when I got to meet Ira's team, everybody was really excited about working with him. Every single person that I met were really, the very first thing that they said to me was, I work for Ira. And everybody was very excited. So I love what's going on here, and I am so excited to be a part of this, and I'm glad that you guys have me here. So let me just explain a few things about how it works in the United States. Is anybody here living in the United States currently? I'm sorry. I'm trying to make this a second home. This is how much I love this place. So let's just take your exchange, for example. See an exchange like Coinbase, and by the way, if you have any questions, just interrupt me anytime. So Coinbase, BitPay, your sort of basic registered exchanges. So what they're doing, according to the folks at the federal level, and that would be FinCEN and the IRS, is they're money services businesses, and they are transmitting money. FinCEN put out this clarification on how the BSA, the Bank Secrecy Act, would apply to companies doing such things back in 2014. And it's called the Guidance to persons administering, exchanging, and using cryptocurrencies. And that provided the clarity that these companies would have to register at the federal level and would be subject to 31 CFR of the USC. So that would mean that they would have to register as a money services business, they would have to file SARS, suspicious activity reports, they would have to file currency transaction reports, and they would have to have a compliance officer and have a written compliance report, which, you know what, it sounds a little antiquated, but I didn't make the rules up. So they would have to do that at the federal level. Essentially, they would have that watchdog, FinCEN, looking over their shoulder at every single turn, because you would have to file for every single transaction that would need filing. But then, there's more, right? So not only do you have to register at the federal level, you have to go state by state to look at each state's money transmitter laws to see whether you also need to register as a money transmitter in those states. And so, I mean, can anybody just give me a reason why that just sounds like a lot of just useless BS? Right? I mean, there are lots of states. So just imagine having to do that for all of those states, or having to look into it. And so the interesting thing is that each state has their own set of rules. And the most interesting thing about this is that most states haven't really deliberated on what to do yet regarding crypto companies. So they've neither narrowed, widened, nor taken a sui generis approach to that. What that means is narrowing down, meaning taking those laws and applying them straight to cryptocurrencies. Widening, saying, oh, well, okay, these apply to anything that acts as money, or sui generis would mean like a sort of direct rulemaking for that. So most states have not dealt with it. And, you know, back in the day I used to say, okay, they don't understand what it is, so, you know, maybe they need some time. This is back in 2013. I'm thinking they have a lot of time. But really, it's 2018, and there's still a lot of just confusion and not a lot of clarity in the space. Does anybody have any questions yet? Sir, can you ask this question with a mic? Because it's pretty interesting.
So what's the problem with registering offshore, say Vanuatu, Estonia, and other regions which have cryptocurrency legislation, which is very simple, and you avoid America entirely? Because we're in a crypto space, so why even deal with America?
Well, I mean, that would make sense, right? So we're dealing with an issue like this right now for the largest exchange in the entire world, okay, who is not domiciled in the U.S. They have nothing in the U.S. to accept process or service on their behalf. They're just not in the U.S. They're completely in Europe. They operate from there. However, the people in the U.S. Use their platform. So we did apply for an administrative ruling request on their behalf. And the question was, because, there's so much regulatory uncertainty, right? Whether that this company would be subject to these rules, to the Bank Secrecy Act rules, right? Because they're not wholly and substantially, that is the standard. They're not doing that in the US, just based on, the percentages and all of that they have no one working there. There's not even a help desk in the US, so you could say, okay, there's, they have an office here. Nothing. But, because the US never likes to put its face in anybody's business or or open anybody's fridge, right, without permission. So far we have not gotten a response back yet, although it's been several months, but they did tell us, give us a verbal that they would probably have to start they would have to register with FinCEN and start doing all of that because they were offering their services to people in the United States. So that raises a very bigger issue, right? It's like, does every company that is somehow online and adopted by US citizens, right? US citizens are using this thing in the US. Are they now under the sort of purview of the regulatory cartel? I guess so. I think it's terrible policy, but if, just going offshore and registering, and not being subject to those rules were an option, I think it would be great. But then again, it's game theory too. It's permission or forgiveness. And as a company, you have to decide what side of that coin you can be on. Now, if you're extremely well capitalized, it could be a business decision because you could certainly deal with the, $1 million fines if that were to happen. But the reality is there's so many startups in this space that most people cannot do that. Any more questions? There you go.
Yes, you mentioned that exchange are money transfer, they manage. I talked with a friend that has another friend is in the department of that's watching the money movement in Panama,
yeah.
like in the presidencia is an office, like I don't know the name right now, but one important point know your customer, KYC policies. And if I have a credit card, I'm already checking, I have the credit card in my bank, and the bank is supposed to check me and give me the okay. So if I go to an exchange or to a business to buy a cryptocurrency, I'm not a money laundry thief, or delinquent. Right. So what's the position? Is that right? It's like a credit card is a check for you. Whatever in business you're going to do is somebody comes with the credit card, is somebody you can trust. Is that a way to check somebody buying your cryptocurrency? It's just to be legal. And as far as I understand, you are trying to avoid money laundering. It's like you want to track where the money came. So is that right, the affirmation that when somebody has a credit card, that person is potable or, is you can trust that person?
Yeah, so there are lots of KYC solutions that I have seen, and a lot of them accept different methods for verification. But I think what you're particularly talking about, and I don't think you asked it in that way, is that there is an exemption that exists for money services businesses, right? That says that if you stay within like 2 registered financial institutions, so you essentially have an institution on one end that is doing that registered KYC, right? And on the other end of you, right, doing also that KYC, then you might be within that exemption because anything at that point is double reporting. And from what I know of the FinCEN collection site, it's called the EBSA. That's where you actually go to file the SARs and the CTRs. That thing was not built to handle large amounts of data. It just wasn't. First of all, you need Internet Explorer to make it work. I'll let you draw your own conclusions from that.